very briefly, I think ultimately we are going to have to come up with answers at the national level. What do you do about big corporations? Do you take them over? Do you own them by public trust, the way the pension funds own tremendous amount and have great power? Which ones and how do you develop economic planning that can target jobs where they're needed in Detroit? There are lots of national issues. So I'm going to put that on the table because the local people in local democracy don't look at that often. But that's part of the study group process and beginning to think through, now where does this all go? What do we really want? Where's it end up? Are we really saying everything can be local? I don't believe that, and I'm a localist. Some things we're going to have to deal with. But that is a problem of theory and analysis and discussion and getting clear and beginning to actually think about it and talk about it, put it as part of our agenda. And that's why people, why I'm writing books. A lot of friends are writing books on this kind of thing to begin thinking it through. If you don't like capitalism, you don't like state socialism, what do you want? Fair question. Having said that, one of the things that I think is really very important is that there is stuff going on at the local level now which I think can inform, and at the state level, the principles in the reality of what you can do in many cities now, really now, but also generating principles that can be applied at the state level and ultimately the national level. So I see it as a two-way thing, one that can be done here and now, and secondly, part of engaging and informing and making real what it is we do beyond here. So that's partly what I want to talk about. The other thing I want to say is this morning there was a very interesting discussion. The folks are doing Democracy Now! And Democracy Unlimited in Eureka, not so much, which is a less interesting town than a college town in California or a college town like this, beginning to find out that there really are ways to make alliances in the city that go well beyond the usual suspects, if you actually talk practically what you want to do. And I think what essentially was emerging was there's a double-barreled, or what the Chinese used to say, a walk-on-two-leg strategy. There is a challenging strategy, and if you challenge and you might destroy, they'll say they're going to take the jobs away. There's also the need to have another strategy building up alternatives. And I think it's a two-way street. We need to do that. And I think there's a lot of good work's been done. We're hearing a lot in food and agriculture. There is tremendous, very important stuff going on. I want to suggest to you that we can, I think, push the horizons further, that there's enough now that people can begin to explore reaching out to other communities. There is some discussion with the alternative business, independent small businesses, people beginning to find out, we were talking about Wisconsin and the anti-war things, beginning to find out if you actually, and I think this is a problem of the left. Often we think they're different. We know something and they don't like us. But often you find if you actually engage in a real conversation with someone you think is a conservative. Someone was talking today about it, Wisconsin, knocking on the door where there's a VFW flag and gold stars, and all of a sudden you find you can talk to these people and they can talk to you, and it's actually human beings that you can talk about. That's our problem, not theirs. Our problem, to begin to reach out and learn that we can talk to other people. Some independent small businessmen at the local level where they actually really do share interest, they have real questions, they want practical answers. It's really time to expand that process. What I also want to suggest is that there's another trend going on that is very much in the direction that favors a real alternative economic strategy at the local level where we can both build and learn principles. There's a lot of talk about globalization, but the most interesting going on in the United States, in any case, is localization. There's been some studies, the academic, anybody who's an economist, here's a good study for you. There have been studies of the degree with which people within cities trade with each other. The doctor buys from the teacher buys from the carpenter buys from the grocer, and so forth. Internal, intra-city localization of the economies is an expanding trend. It was roughly 42% in the 1950s. It's gone up to about 52% within 20 years, and by 1990, the latest study that I've seen, it was at 62% on average was within the cities. Now, those economists will know that's the other side of the coin of the service economy. That is to say, manufacturing is now down to 11% of the workforce, which means that 90% or 89% is not doing that, which means that a lot of it's internal. That is very important for people who care about localism and local democracy and the economic underpinnings of it. That means that it is possible to do more and more self-grown business and industry locally